Mats, can you describe your operations before COVID? What were your expectations for this spring and this summer?
Yeah.
And how it turned out? Can you describe past almost 2 months of your operations?
Yeah, sure. No, I mean, it's been completely different from both what we were looking forward to and planning for. Just a quick look back. I mean, we've been into operation on the Stockholm-Gothenburg route for 5 years now, seeing year-by-year growth, both in terms of having the market growing, but also us taking market share. And especially in Sweden, we've seen from the summer of 2018, we've seen a very strong shift from airlines down to railway, very much driven by the urge for people to travel more sustainable. So I mean, coming into this year, we've had quite an offensive agenda, spending a lot of money on marketing, opening new destinations, and really was planning to elevate from the underlying market conditions. Had a good January, February, then entering March, and then basically from mid-March, I would say, when the Swedish authorities sharpened their recommendations, also having people not traveling domestically as a recommendation, we've seen the market more or less disappear. So I think we had 3 or 4 weeks with actually net negative revenues. So we actually had more cancellations than we had new bookings, which is definitely a first, hopefully a last also. But I mean, that is something that we couldn't see it coming, and it's also been much worse than we actually anticipated. From that, we've seen revenues growing, but they've grown extremely slow. And when we closed last week, we are still losing over 90% of the revenues that we were planning for. I mean, we've been on the commercial side heavily affected. That of course has led us to act. So I mean, losing all revenues, we are forced to act on the cost side. But we are an operation with quite a high degree of fixed costs, so it's extremely. I mean, it's impossible for us to cover the gap, of course. But we've been taking down services. So we've reduced the number of services with about 60 to 70% to reduce the damage, so to say.
So that was the nice situation before COVID came. Well, what is the situation now?
Yeah, the situation was very good for the consumer, was very good in terms of environment. You know, as you told Barbara, it's very interesting that the Italian case was a really good case. And what we ask and what we expect, that the future will be the same for the consumer and will be the same for the environment. This is the goal, I suppose, not only for a rail company, but for a government. This is the first point. The second point is what's happened with the COVID. The demand decreased around more than 99%. So the demand decreased more than 99%. This is huge impact, very huge impact. And this has to be taken in account when the government has to intervene, because the decrease in the high-speed rail in Italy was bigger than in the airlines. So this is very important to take in mind.
Is there a progress already? Because I remember that there was long time, almost nothing, but I hope that there is a slight progress.
There's development. I don't know if it's progress, but there's development on that.
We have an average passenger number of 10 to 15,000 passengers a day. And we saw that rate drop down to below 1,000 passengers in mid-March. So that is also a drop in demand of about 90 to 95%, which is of course unbearable if you do a commercially viable traffic. Just to explain the situation in Austria, we have a very strong incumbent, ÖBB, and they actually they have a PSO for almost all other routes, except for the Vienna-Salzburg line, which is an economically viable route. We do that, and ÖBB does it without any PSO order on a normal basis. And so when the COVID crisis started, what we did as a company was, first of all, we introduced Kurzarbeit, as most other companies also did. And the second thing is that we in 2 or 3 steps, we reduced our regular offer down to about 1/3 of the regular offer that we usually did before. And at that time, when we realized that we could not sustain that in the long time, we approached the Ministry of Climate Protection, and we asked them for this temporary PSO. that we, as well as ÖBB, then received starting April 20th and so far for 3 months. That means it will run until the beginning of July. And there's an option to prolong this temporary PSO for another 3 months. So it's actually 3 times 1 month. I think that they will, of course, have a look at the circumstances and then decide whether they would prolong it for 1, 2, or 3 months. What we do is we as WESTbahn, we offer a 2-hourly takt starting from Wien Westbahnhof, but not running via Hütteldorf as we usually do, but we're running via Meidling and then on to Salzburg. So that's a 2-hourly takt that we do. It's 9 train pairs per day, but it's a combined offer with ÖBB. So they also do a 2-hourly takt, and both takts combined result in a 1-hour takt, which is very good for the people, the passengers, because it also includes a mutual ticket acceptance. So this means that passengers who have a WESTbahn ticket, they can also use that ticket in an ÖBB train and vice versa.
We, as everybody, have been impacted by the COVID because we have 2 activities. The first, this is the operator of a shuttle trains in the Channel Tunnel. And there we have on freight, so the transport of trucks, we are more or less running at 60% of the normal turnover. So definitely we are impacted, of course, by the decrease of activity, but also by social distancing, because the truck drivers, they have to be transported in a passenger coach with social distancing, which is drastically limiting the capacity. The next thing, this is the transportation of private car. It's about 10%, and definitely fully impacted because the border is closed only for, let's say, emergency traffic, or people having being able to give a justification. If you take the second activity as infrastructure manager, it's highly impacted because Eurostar, unfortunately, is operating only 1 return train to Brussels, 1 return train to Paris a day. So definitely it's really an emergency traffic. It's the same roughly for most mainline traffic in France, in the magnitude of 10% maximum. Commuter traffic is a little bit better, but definitely. The key problem that we are facing for the time being, this is that the government is imposing to the operator social distancing plus the mask wearing. And especially for operators in dense urban conditions, it's very difficult to guarantee the social distancing in suburban traffic.
The private, smaller, new entrant passenger rail operators of various sizes, they are not incumbents. And what have the incumbents been doing over the last couple of months? On the whole, incumbents have been largely silent because they can afford to wait and ask for compensation indirectly through special channels from their owners, which are the governments. After all, they are state-owned. I mean, look at the example today in the news in Germany, how Deutsche Bahn, which is an open access operator, long-distance operator within Germany, it's still state-owned. And we think it's going to get a special subsidy direct from the government, which is being done under the grounds that it's a kind of appreciation for the fact that Deutsche Bahn long-distance trains have maintained their services despite the economic instability of the times. So they're kind of going to get an imposed subsidy, and essentially that shuts out other smaller open access privately owned operators from getting access to the same subsidy. So that's not fair. So essentially, it's not just a question of getting rail exposure, but within the rail industry, we need to show that new entrant private operators that they get treated the same way as the state-owned incumbents. And unfortunately, in neither cases we've been that successful so far. We don't really see much of a reduction in access charges. However, it is very important. It's not just a question of ensuring liquidity. Liquidity isn't just ensured through more state subsidies, also ensured through reducing costs, cutting costs. And access to state-owned infrastructure, stations, service facilities, rolling stock parking needs to be implemented as soon as possible. Not just that, but beyond 2020, for as long as the recovery period takes place. I would say probably well into 2021, because open access operators will need to recover. They need to win customers back, and it won't happen straight away. So certainly helping with the access charges for a long period of time would be very useful. And I think my final statement is that all of these things I've just talked about, whether it's temporary PSOs or reductions in access charges, they're all things that are under the control of the member states. The states are the ones, they're the entities that decide in this crisis where compensation can be paid or where costs can be cut. It's entirely up to member states. So, it's under the control of the governments, and now they have to act. Otherwise, we really fear for the future of market opening in Europe.